All right, welcome everyone. Tonight is a very special night. We have one of the foremost investigative journalists who has been focused on ET contact for so many years. And, you know, LightNet really loves people who just don't fly by the seat of their pants. Paola Harris has done interview after interview after interview after interview to really understand what has been happening with ET contact. She's also going to share tonight her experiences with Gonzalez, Ricardo González. I'm missing his name. You know, I spent 10 years in Argentina, so I'm very excited to be in one of his events. And Paola Harris had an amazing experience before in one of his retreats. And we actually did an interview about that. So we'll be sharing that link in the chat. And she just got back from another experience. And, you know, in her emailed out to her followers, and she was mentioning how, you know, when we get a bunch of people together in a very coherent field that are requesting peaceful contact, we become ambassadors and we can create that experience. And she's saying, you know, it's great if you have a lot of people, it's, you know, but you can even do it with just yourself. But this is the kind of science that you guys know, that we're so focused on, the power of 8 and the Maharishi effect and everything that's really where we can leverage our consciousness. So we're going to talk about her book, Trinity. We're going to talk about all sorts of things tonight, but just welcome, Paola. It's great to have you.
Thanks a lot. It's really great to talk to all of you. And I love Sedona. So that's where you are. I used to go there in the 70s, and boy, has it changed. I remember when I went to Sedona in the 70s, there was literally nobody there. And you could go to the vortexes, and it was like a mysterious place. Now, if I go to Sedona, it's like filled with apartments and people, and changed quite a bit. So, and by the way, my name is Paula, but call me Paula because I'm Italian. I was born in Italy, and it's very hard for Americans to pronounce my name, but Paula is easier, I think, for people. And
okay, great, Paula. Thank you so much. I meant to ask you before we started, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm butchering her name. I'm butchering her name.
I mean, in Spanish, Paula is like Paul, but Paula, and that's my name, is the female part of Paul.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Sedona is really great. You know, but I was just mentioning Bashar is coming to do a massive event here next weekend on Bell Rock to call in ships. And the electromagnetics there is a crystal bedrock below Sedona. And all of the iron and things like that can really support contact. And, you know, the UFO tours here in Sedona, they basically will give you your money back if you do not see a UFO. It's like pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, but I want to warn everybody, this is not UFOs on demand, because it becomes a very commercial thing, and I'm 100% against that. I really, you know, I don't think people should just do that, because it becomes too much of you know, like a disappointment if they don't show up, and you can't do it on demand. I think why I like going to these places, I'll be honest with you, Zenka, is because as a woman alone, I can't go out on the stars, under the stars with a chair, especially not here. It's very dangerous. I can't just go under the stars and see the Milky Way. So I love being where there's a lot of people outside, like Shasta and Creston, where you're protected, where nothing's going to happen to you, where you can look up in the stars and meditate. It isn't about seeing UFOs, because then it becomes more like a, you know, circus act, and you ask them to appear and stuff like that. So I'm going to be upfront with you about that right away. And then the other thing is that Creston, because you were talking about Sedona, Creston has the largest aquifer in Colorado. And there's something about water underneath the land that that amplify stuff. So if you have like, say we had 200 people, and that's why I'm doing these conferences like I just did with Sarah Bressman Cosme in Creston. If you do that, and then you have this aquifer underneath the water, underneath the land, you get an amplification of energy. And we were just talking about Creston. Creston is special because that was an attempt for all the religions to live together. Maurice and Hannah Strong went to Ambassador James George in Canada. He was ambassador to India. And they said, we want to try an experiment where all the religions live together and it isn't commercial. There isn't one hotel in Creston. It's all B&Bs. And they got the money from Lawrence Rockefeller as an experiment in a utopia. So you go to Creston, there's nothing there. I mean, there's no McDonald's, there's no franchises, there's no hotels. It's a bunch of B&Bs. There's some stupas, there's the Zen Center, there's Shumei, which is the Japanese, it's Japanese Reiki. There's the Carmelite nuns. And I wanted to tell you, Zenka, that in Creston is the only funeral pyre, outdoor funeral pyre, I think, in the United States, where the Zen priests actually do the cremation outdoors, and the Carmelite nuns clean, they wash the body, and then the Zen priests deal with that. And it's the only outdoor one in the United States under the mountains. It's a beautiful place, Creston.
Wow. Yeah, I want you to talk about Ricardo González and his work and what you experienced last week. And I did want to tell you that, we also, like that, do believe that making ET contact is a very sacred and very special thing. In Contact 100, as many of you know who were in Contact 100 and now in Contact 250, which is starting in 2 weeks, we spend 3 hours meditating and 1 hour out under the stars. And we do this 4 nights in a row. Or not in a row, but we do 2 nights one weekend and 2 nights the other, so that you guys can start really making your own personal connections. You're going to be bringing scents, you're going to be bringing crystals, you're going to be bringing pictures, you're going to be looking at your astrological chart to see who you're calling in. So it is a really, you go in to go out. And I also do want to say that, I'm friends with all the 3 or 4 people that do UFO tours in Sedona. And one of them is fairly commercial, but the other ones are very heartfelt too. And it's a joy, that some of the families and some of the people coming to Sedona are curious about it. And so it's interesting for them to, just learn, like, what's a satellite, what's a plane, how to use tools to figure out, what you're seeing, and then just be out there to have a guided experience. And a lot of them are very deeply connected galactic people, so they typically have experiences, and it really opens people's minds when they leave Sedona to go back to their other lives. So tell us about Ricardo González and what happened last week in Creston.
Well, first of all, we were in Shasta, and we do the same thing. Nothing special happens. What we do is, what Ricardo is there for 3 days and it was all in Spanish. It was his group of people that meet in Shasta. And if you study Ricardo González, and his books are in English because I had them translated, Contact from Planet Apu and the Ark, then you'll know that he is in contact with one particular species called the Apunians. And he believes there is a solar disk in Mount Shasta. So that's why he goes there. It's all in Spanish. So I'm trying to understand because I understand Italian. And 3 nights of intense meditation for world peace, not to see UFOs. Because if, for instance, just to tell your audience, I was very close friends with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, and he personally told me that he sent messages from the moon, and they were 99% accurate. So if you look at messages coming from the moon, then you know the power of thought and the power of intention changes world events. So that was for world peace. And Ricardo is dedicated to the flag of peace, which was the first flag of the United Nations. It's a white flag with 3 red dots. It was designed by Nicholas Roerich, who was a painter, but a mystic from Russia who lived in India. And he gave the first peace flag to the League of Nations under Woodrow Wilson. And that was supposed to be the symbol for peace. So we have that flag. They wore t-shirts with that flag. We're there. And what we do, and I love the way he does it, is he first concentrates on where we are, like Stephen Greer does, like where we're located, which is Shasta. And then from there, you go to the country, the state, which is California. From there, you go to the country. And from the country, you go to the planet. And from the planet, you go into outer space. And what you do is call for the peace of the war zones in the world. And you mention them. Because if Edgar Mitchell is telling me that thought is powerful, that's why Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, instead of becoming an engineer, doing astronaut work when he came back, started the Institute for Noetic Sciences, which has to do with entanglement, quantum physics, and the power of thought. It's so weird because we know thought and intention makes things happen, but his institute with Dean Radin and all those people have to prove it scientifically. We know these things are real. They're not paranormal, they're very normal, but then you get like the Institute of Noetic Sciences. You want to know about Ricardo. The reason why I know about Ricardo is because I was studying the Space Brother movement in Southern California, Giant Rock and all that. I was studying that intensely, interviewing about that. I'm an investigative journalist. And I found out that in 1960s, the Space Brothers, or the species that look like us, the Space Brother, ETs, went to Latin America. They gave up on Southern California. They thought they could do something in Southern California because it was the start of the New Age movement. We had Yogananda, we had things happening, Norman Paulson. So they came there first, 1952, with Adamski, Van Tassel, Manger, and all those guys. And when that didn't work, they went to Latin America. That's why I went to Latin America, is because I thought I'm going to grab these guys because they're meditating in the Chilca Desert, and there's actual space people coming up to them and talking to them. So that's why I talked to Sisto Paz. It's all on my YouTube, by the way, guys. If you want to see it, all my interviews are on my YouTube channel. The one, Sisto Paz is like the godfather of those guys. He was in the Chilca Desert in the 1970s with his brother Charlie, and the ships would land and the guys would come off. It was that simple. It wasn't like science fiction. The space guys would come off, but after 3 days of meditation and fasting in the desert. I've been to the Chilca Desert since then, so I know what they were going through. One of the people was Ricardo González, so I had to get hold of him. And when I asked him about how this happened, then he told me. And so the thing is that it's very, very important that we look at the history of contact. And that's why I'm working mainly in Latin America. I've been to Colombia, I've been to Argentina. I spoke in Argentina in January. I've been to Lima, Peru. I've been to the Andes. I've been to Mexico City, and a lot is happening down there. So when Ricardo comes up, even though it's in Spanish, in Shasta, you bet I'm going to be there, because that is the purest kind of contact And there is a reason for it, world peace. It's like, I mean, I make him play Imagine by John Lennon. You know, I mean, it's that simple. It's not just about, oh, let's see a couple of UFOs. It's like this is a technical way of causing change on the planet, at least the way I look at it.
Yeah, I was channeling the other day about how to prepare for Contact 250 and what we needed to do and how to prepare. And the last thing on their list was focus on world peace, because they can't really come here if we're going to be shooting them down with guns. I mean, it's like, it's not. And besides the fact, we know with spoon bending and things like that, people can't have an experience like that if you don't trust, if you're not feeling safe. And so in a world where there is that much conflict, it's just not conducive to this galactic renaissance that we're moving into. And it's really a maturity level. It's interesting because a lot of the people that are working on disclosure in Washington, my inside sources say that, oh yeah, they're going to disclose the fact that the ETs have shut down the nuclear facilities. And I know that that's a big part of your book. And so, yeah, do you want to talk about that, of why you think, what do you think about peace and ETs and how they feel about what we've been doing?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it. Thank you for mentioning the Maelstrom Air Force Base shut down in '69. Because I interviewed Robert Salas. He's also, he was in the bunker when this all happened. It isn't like they destroyed the missiles. It's like they shut them down one by one by one. And some people, like the military, are going to look at that as an act of war, but that's really an act of peace. That's a message. I mean, they're subtle. Whoever's visiting us is subtle. And if I'm involved with Clifford Stone, and I was for many years, and he's telling me as a manual, and this is a real guy, this isn't from channeling or anything. He has a manual with drawings of 57 different races so they won't hurt them when they go to crash retrievals. And Clifford Stone did 12 crash retrievals. By the way, the interview with Clifford Stone is in my new book, which is Connecting the Dots. It has 23 interviews. None of this is me, because I don't know what's going on, but I've interviewed people involved with ETs. And three of Clifford Stone's retrievals were in Vietnam. And in one case, Clifford told me he went in a cave. They were supposed to destroy an ET base that was looking at the war. He said when he walked into the cave, one of the walls was completely transparent and they were watching the war. And when the military went in there to blow up the cave, the first words from the ET that was standing there was, "What are you people doing over here?" And so, I've talked to people that really were working in these projects. What gets me is what's interpreted as an act of war is really an act of peace. And I talked to Robert Salas. I said, "Did you get any messages when you were down there in the bunker?" And he said, "Yeah." He said in his head came the words, "We will shut you down," which means, and a lot of people have come up with this, that they will not allow the world to destroy itself crazily. But we're so close to it, because if you're reading the newspaper or you look at the world, we're back in the Cold War, and there's no off-ramp for Russia. So we got another Russia, United States Cold War going on. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. It is something that can be changed. So I'm not being gloom and doom. It can be changed with the power of intention, with the power of inspiration, with our being role models for what we want the world to be. But if we have to keep it in mind, it's not wishful thinking. And that's why when I give a lecture anywhere, I always give a lecture and I tell about my investigative journalism work. And then I go, hey, do something, because I don't think they're on vacation. And I don't think they're here just so you can see. I think they're here to give us a chance to grow up. And if we have to grow up, we got to do something, even tiny, tiny, tiny something, little bitty something, I always say. And you mentioned the book, but connecting the dots has on my research. But the first, why Trinity is important. And I started with Alan Hynek. You know, I worked with Alan Hynek for 6 years. That's how I started my career, and ended with Jacques Vallée, Close Encounters. Close Encounters for me was what changed my life as a teacher. I started to cry at the end of the movie with that scene of, you know, the French scientist smiling and communicating with ETs. Well, Jacques Vallée was that person. So Jacques, I had been working on a crash in Socorro, New Mexico. I was working on it for 5 years. We had the 2 little boys who were in their 80s when I got to them. We have the location and we have artifacts. And I was working on it, and Jacques knew we had metal. So he came on board. He worked with me for another 5 years, 10 years worth of work for Trinity. But what we found out was that the crash happened. It happened 1 month after the atomic bomb, 13 miles away from the atomic bomb, 3 miles away from the Owl Barn Cafe where Oppenheimer had his quarters. So Oppenheimer knew. Oppenheimer and Einstein both knew that we were being visited, and they knew that these things weren't on vacation. These craft were basically giving us a loud and clear message that we had become a very dangerous species, and that we couldn't uninvent this thing. So the book Trinity, just like the movie Oppenheimer, is very important for people to read. And Jacques is an incredible writer. He's just he writes like a novel. You can't put it down. It's got my interviews and my work, but he writes such beautiful, the way he expresses himself is incredible. I think it's one of Jacques Vallée's greatest, works, Trinity. And of course, I went to see the movie Oppenheimer and realized exactly the importance of what we had discovered and how we're playing an infinite chess game here with the atomic situation. So yeah, and our book Trinity has just been translated into Japanese. So the Japanese are mentioned in here because sadly, the emperor had already surrendered before we threw the bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I don't think people know that. He had already surrendered. So we had to test it anyway on people. So, and that's in our book. So our book has been translated into Japanese now. It's like a matter of history. And I believe, and I think you too, Zenka, believe that even though I'm talking to you now, they're kind of listening to us. I think the universe is kind of listening to us, because when you bring attention to this, when you start talking about it, that's when they start paying attention also. I say the cosmic cultures.
Yeah, so this is really incredible. So 13 miles away, from the A-bomb is UFO. You know what I mean? There's that's tiny. The world is millions of miles big, 13 miles right there. So, people often say like that an atomic bomb really rips into space time. Like, do you think it's that it will damage some kind of space time, or do you think that they don't want to end we don't want to poison our world? What do you think is their main concern?
I think when you split the atom and we have an atomic bomb, I think it goes into other dimensions. I really do. I think most people do. I mean, we're not living in one dimension anymore. We're or ever have been. We live in a dimensional world. We live in a world of many dimensions. And when you upset and explode something that big, and that's the A-bomb. If you go to see Oppenheimer, you'll know that the H-bomb was 10 times the A-bomb. And we tested the H-bomb in the Atlantic. We tested instead of on land, we did it in the water. And other cultures did it in the Pacific, in the Bikini Atoll. 800 tests of the H-bomb in the Bikini Atoll. In my book, Connecting the Dots, I interviewed somebody that was there. And he said UFOs flew over the island of Fangatofa and the Bikini Atoll. UFOs were flying over, watching us do H-bomb tests in the Pacific, killing the coral, 3 feet of dead fish on the runway. And then they ask us if there's evil aliens. It's like, I'm thinking, 3 feet of dead fish, 800 tests in the Pacific. I think we're nuts. We're insane for many, many reasons. And yes, it does affect. I mean, it affects the waters, it affects tsunamis, it affects earthquakes, it affects the air, it affects everything. And I don't know what the justification for that could be. I'm still, I'm still looking at this as I think we're nuts. This is actual history, what I'm repeating to you, because I'm an investigative journalist. I have to check everything out. So yes, it goes into other dimensions. And I think that also go back to thought, go back to intention, go back to, conversely, a bunch of positive thinking people. They can also change history. They can also change the course of all of this. But you got to get them together. You've got to get them together in groups. And that's what originally you started talking about.
Yeah. And let's go back to that topic. I want to invite everyone right now, if you're watching on New Realities or Portal to Ascension or LightNet, if you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do that. This is great content in all those different channels that are bringing about new ideas, cementing a peaceful galactic narrative. So one of the things that LightNet is doing after Contact 100 is pulling together Contact 250. And it's interesting you're mentioning Japan, because we're going to be in Japan doing a Japanese version of this in the spring with 250 people as well. So as I've mentioned, the first day we're going to be looking at your astrological chart from when you were born. So what different star nations do you resonate with? And as many of you know, is Altair has studied all over the world. He studied in India, he studied in Japan, he studied mystical Christianity, all sorts of things, Hopi religions that he studied with the elders in the Amazon. And he synthesized all those star techniques and meditations into these 12 techniques he's going to teach everyone. And then we're going to be going out under the stars. The second weekend, we're doing an entire Raising Our Vibration conference, which is 6 a.m. We start with yoga, meditation, sound alchemy. We're even going to do a broadcast with Humanity's team, and we're going to be talking about dream circles, which is kind of like contact meditations in peace, but it's really of the Native American traditions around the world where they really seed peaceful realities and different ideas into the field that way. We're going to be doing a spoon bending, and we're going to be doing Making Music with ET workshop, which is also going to be incredible. If you haven't seen the YouTube on our Making Music with ETs, it's absolutely insane. We've had them working with our apps and our radios, and it only worked after we serenaded to them, from our hearts, and so it's this really cool cultural exchange. We're going to be teaching you guys how to do lucid dreaming as well, dream yoga. And then, so this Friday and Saturday night, now all this second weekend is also here in Sedona. So we invite you to come. We do have discounts for students and seniors, $299. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone. If you are not familiar with Altair, you can go to lightnet.org/webinar. And he does an hour of techniques here that you're going to get to understand. So it's clearing your physical body, doing a body scan, figuring out where there's tension, and then lovingly releasing that. So, and then we do it with your emotional body and your light body, because as Paula says, this is, you want to have your body sensitive enough in order to feel the contact, the goosebumps, the dreams that you're going to have, the telepathy, right? So they're waiting there, but you want to make sure that you can feel that contact. So again, lightnet.org, you can just go to lightnet.org and find the information. We start in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So let's talk again about this idea of what techniques have you seen, and what do you do when you do your retreats? Besides the fact of, really zeroing in on where you are in the universe, and then you use music, right? Like Imagine, to open your hearts, so what are some of the other fun tips and techniques you have for people that are interested in bringing in galactic peace to the planet?
I don't do that for a living. I basically am an investigative journalist, and I do the contact work because I want to do something. In other words, I can do all the research, I can do the interviews, I can travel around the world, and I'm one of the only field researchers in the world. I travel all around the world, and right now I just did a show out of Japan. I will be going to Japan and lecturing in Japan and in China, and I am less doing it in the United States, and I'll tell you why. For me, I think something needs to be done really, really immediately. And I find, and this is not negative, it's the truth, that a lot of what happens in the United States become too much entertainment, and there's too much presence of personalities. I think that all what I see in South America is the common people with their babies and their children. They all camp out. I see these kids running around. I see their families running around. And when they do a meditation, it's a community. And they do it because they want something to change. And it is because it's serious. It isn't just a social gathering. So they get together, and I love Latin America because it's around food. So you get all these people that are cooking, and they're drinking their mate in the morning, and their tea, and in other places they're drinking tea, and they're doing a kind of a ritual. So for me, Zenka, it's more of a ritual. It's, if you can get the ritual of getting up and even going outside and making a real loving hello to the planet in the morning, that's a ritual. It's not to you or to your, achy. I have arthritis, so not to your achy body, but say, I am here. I'm part of this planet. I'm a species that wants peace. I would like to join together with all the other species that want peace and harmony, and for everybody. And then it becomes a ritual. So I love South America because their ritual isn't as much entertainment. I don't look at it as they get together in groups of families and kids and food, and they help each other, and the contact situation there is simple. It's just simple. It isn't like, you have contact and you have 30 people around you, asking details and everything. Everybody has contact. I mean, everybody is with nature. Everybody is a contactee. Everybody is that way. And so I have no suggestions, except when you get up in the morning, make that the first hello to the sun that you have, or the sky. I want to live in a world of peace, and then try to model it. I always say to people, look, it's not what you say, it's how you model it. It's the actions that cause the change. And I'm a teacher. I have a master's in education. I've taught for 40 years, and I think our job is to teach, to inform, but mostly to inspire. And of course, you're young, so thank God we got young people, because we need to inspire the young people to do this. Most of the conferences I go to, especially the UFO conferences, they're 60 years and over. And I always say, hey, we need to have as many young people as we do at the Star Trek conventions that have 3,000, or at the Ancient Alien conventions that have 3,000 young people. Because if you're going to inspire, you're going to have to inspire the younger generation to carry on with that kind of thinking.
Yeah, that's so true. We always say, and there is a big light net. I mean, there's a big Starseed movement within the younger generations that are saying like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I do have multiple lives. Hey, wait a minute, maybe some of my lives were, on other planets. And they're starting to connect more deeply with their star lineages. And, I agree with you. And I spent 10 years in Latin America. So I agree with you about it just being, they're a little bit more one with nature. They allow for time to slow down when they do these kinds of practices. We had Eliana, who's a famous healer here at LightNet a couple weeks ago, doing these incredible miracle healings. It was absolutely insane. And she is going to be doing in December near Cordoba in Uriturco, which they think there's like an underground city there.
Well, that's where I was in January, Uriturco, which is like a UFO town.
Yeah, fully. And I go to restaurants there, and this guy would I'm like, wow, look at that alien sculpture that you have sitting, next to your kitchen. He's like, oh yeah. He pulls me back in the kitchen. He's like, I've had experiences where ETs were sitting right next to me in a room, in plain daylight, and he's just talking about what a life-changing experience that was for him. And we're actually going to be hopefully doing a contact experience, myself and Eliana, in December in Cordoba, because I'll be there visiting family, so we'll have to see. So one of the things that Altair has a 9-year-old and I have a 9-year-old, and we love to tell stories about the kids and call, like my son can sometimes see eight craft in one night. It's just like really fun. And of course his daughter as well. So when you sign up for Contact 250, it's a family affair. We always tell you, go in with your friends, buy one ticket, you're on the Zoom together. You can bring as many people to your house as you want. You can invite your family, your kids, kids bend spoons better too, because they're not in their head. And I think that there is a culture of peace through the younger generation. Just cultural understanding of different cultures, I think is finally making its way through music and pop culture. So I want to open it up to you guys for questions. Paula has, as she mentioned, been in the trenches of investigating. And that was one of my last questions for you before we allow other people to step in here, is you were talking about having the medal. Did the medal feel interesting to you? Or, because I've heard they use a lot of bismuth and the crafts and things like that, but what was that whole experience like?
Oh no, it's not about how it feels. It's being examined outside the country right now. It's obviously if Jose, if you read Trinity, he was 9 years old. It took the Army a week to do the cleanup. They had to build a new road. You can see the new road they built to take out the weather balloon. And he went in the last day, he pulled what was on the wall off. He wanted a souvenir. So the piece is about this big. It's not a little piece. And it was on a plaque and it was rotating. So I can't answer to that because I'm not a scientist, but we will get an answer to the metals. It is an aluminum alloy, very different. But that isn't what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is that the 6-year-old gets there. Remember, 1945 is before Kenneth Arnold talked about flying saucers. It's before Roswell, 2 years,
Yeah.
And when the 7-year-old is the 6-year-old is looking at the beings, because there's a panel that flew off and there were 3 beings there. He's flashing, the beings are flashing in his mind, people falling out of skyscrapers. Now, the 6-year-old never saw a skyscraper in his life. He never saw a UFO in his life. And why is he seeing people falling out of skyscrapers? So evidently, whoever that was inside the craft were time travelers, and they were giving him a vision of 9/11. So we've got a very interesting looking situation there. And we didn't just have the metal from the inside of the craft. If you read Trinity, it spewed out angel hair all over the mesquite, angel hair, which was lit up. I'm not going to say it's fiber optics. We don't know. But the kids took it home, a 10-pound bag of that, and gave it to the neighbors to trim their Christmas trees. They didn't know what it was. It was lit up all the time because in 1945, there was no electricity in their town. And this stuff is lit up, and what could you do with it but trim your Christmas tree? They had no idea about UFOs or anything. So the story is amazing. It's amazing. And what happens today is that we know this happened, and we've got to piece it together with some kind of message about our future. And being 13 miles from ground zero is, like I say, if they wanted to go on vacation, they should have gone to the Caribbean.
What do you think was the significance of them showing 9/11, and what do you think is the significance of 9/11 in general?
Well, first of all, there's all kinds of theories on 9/11. It changed the world. I was teaching in Rome at the time because I was in Italy. I was living in Italy teaching at the American Overseas School. I remember that day. It changed everything. It changed security. It changed the way we live. It brought a tremendous amount of fear, tremendous amount of fear. And you all have to admit that fear is a very low vibration. I mean, you keep people under fear, you can do anything with them. I mean, you can control a population under fear. So it changed the way we lived. And of course, Remy at the time was only 6. He couldn't even imagine it. When I got to Remy, he was in his 70s. But he never forgot that vision that they projected to him. And so I think, I mean, after studying this and interviewing dozens of people hundreds of people, everybody, for 40 years, I think there is no time. I think we live in a very multidimensional world that could be an illusion. Jacques Vallée believes we're in a simulation video game. I love that. I love that theory. We're in a video game. I know that we can control the video game. That's why I think that the CE5s are so important. By the way, I 100% support Dr. Stephen Greer. He's one of the only people in the field that I do support. I've been in his films because of the getting of the free energy and of solving some of these world problems. It's not just about ET contact. So if we are in this and we're creating this, and it's our video game, and this is our reality, then we can change it. So I hope that you're talking to me makes some hope for people, because to keep people under fear is a very, very horrible way of just keeping the masses from doing anything. We can do everything. We can change everything. We can do anything. And I want to leave that message of hope with everybody that's with you, because it's a matter of intention. It's a matter of getting together. That's why, my newsletter says, let's get groups together here. Let's have the famous, minimal group of people, or the concentration of people that will change something. So to answer your question, I don't really know, but he told me that, and I believe him. He couldn't make that up. But again, that was the contact situation after the atomic bomb. What do we expect?
Yeah. Fascinating, very fascinating. I want to bring Jocelyn Buckner up if she's able to come up to talk about the angel hair, because it's kind of interesting. There's a group called Area 1358, and they also are done with the United States. They're like, we're just teaching Chinese people how to make contact, because they're like, they're so much more in need of it and like open to it and liberating themselves and whatever. But they came here for many, many days to do different recordings, and they also found hair, and they showed it to me. And we asked the radios about it. So we were having a very coherent conversation with the radios, yes, no, back and forth. It was fascinating. And they asked them not to analyze them, the hair. But anyway, so Jocelyn, are you able to come up? And then we're going to take a question. Let me see if I can find her. Jocelyn, do you want to talk? So can you raise your hand for a second?
There I am.
We are. Can you put your camera on though?
Is it my, sorry, I didn't realize.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, can you just tell people that are watching, and thanks to all who are tuning in. We're about to be going into some Q&A here. So if you go to lightnet.org/unlimited, you'll be getting back into the Zoom. So if you're just watching on the simulcast, you can do that. So go ahead, Jocelyn.
Okay, well, actually, I'm wiping away tears because I'm so happy to see Paula. I haven't seen her in 4 years. We had a rough patch, and she has, I hopefully, forgiven me for all my trespasses, as I love her dearly, and she is so full of great information. We have a lot of mutual friends, and it's so wonderful to see you, Paula. Thank you for being here. Okay, so what I heard was from Melinda Leslie, who has night sky vision tours here in Sedona. And 3 nights ago, they were out and they saw a huge amber light that came very close to where they were. And, it was sort of like they got to the point that they started thinking, well, maybe we should do an anti-CE5. I'm not so sure if I want that. I don't want to go someplace. But anyway, it just got really close to them on the mesa, and then it just blinked out. And then the next morning, there was this angel hair substance they thought that it was, sometimes spiders will spin their web and they'll release it, and you'll just see spider web during certain times of the year floating on the air, and it gets caught up in the cactus and all of that. But this was not like that. This was like, that poly fiber stuff that you get during Christmas that you can tear apart, and put on, and it looks like snow on, the fake snow stuff, but a little thinner. And it was in layers, and it was found in a few places. I understand it was near Chocolate Tree Restaurant, West Sedona. It was at the stupa. It was all over the top, I guess, all over the top of the stupa. It was at the high school. And I want to say at the mailboxes for the houses that are out off of Road 525, where Bradshaw Ranch and, the Palaki ruins and all of that. But, as soon as you turn on 525, if you look over to the left, there's a bank of mailboxes where all the residents come and pick up their mail. And I guess that was covered. So that was the story I heard, and I'm sticking to it. So
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm just texting Melinda, see if she can get on and tell us about it. So it's very fascinating.
Well, you know what? It wasn't Melinda that told me. Somebody told Melinda. I mean, I guess she said that Melinda told her. So actually, this is coming secondhand. And I can't say who that other person is because of, politics and all of that.
Yeah,
But I would be interested if Melinda can verify the information, because I've been meaning to call her about it.
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we'll see if she can come on. There is something significant about when you see an orange orb, like an orange is basically the color that most people see, and it's what the US government investigates and things like that. So that's definitely something there. So that's exciting. All right, so I'm going to go to questions here. You have a question, thank you so much, Jocelyn. If you guys have a question, you can raise your hand. While we're waiting for that, I just want to share my screen and remind you guys that on the 16th, Paula's going to be doing, I don't know how many have seen the Oppenheimer film, but it very much moved Paula, and it's a big story of our time. So it's an important thing to check out. And she's going to be talking about the connection between the ET contact that happened 13 miles away. Do you want to talk a little bit about what people can expect in the masterclass?
Yeah, well, I think we only have 3 minutes, so I don't think it's worth getting anybody else on. And Jocelyn, it was so cool to see you. I miss you. But I'm doing master classes because I'm not doing Laughlin anymore. I mean, Laughlin was a very heavy, it was a personal situation where I was not sponsored. I did it out of my own pocket. I did it for 10 years, brought amazing speakers, but I'm doing private master classes now on particular situations. Like I just did one on Dr. John Mack because I was just down at Rice University. His archive is there with mine and Jacques Vallée's at Whitley Striever's. So I just did a John Mack masterclass with John Mack's people. So keep in touch with Starworks USA anyway, because I'm going to be doing private master classes. And it's just a 2-hour class that's interactive. But I wanted to say something to Jocelyn. In Italy in the 1970s, there was a UFO over a soccer game, and the soccer game stopped. It was in broad daylight, and it spewed angel hair all over the soccer field. So wow. And so this is very common. And even you can look it up, even that this angel hair stuff that looks like the fibers you mentioned. Where I have some myself that was given to me by Shirley Short, because she and Robert Short were coming back from California. There was a UFO and it spewed angel hair all over their car. So she gave me a sample of it. I have a sample of this stuff. Don't ask me what it is, but what
Shirley still lives about 15 miles that way. So yeah.
Yeah,
they could happen here.
Yeah, I have a sample of it, and but what the kids found was lit up. It was like what Colonel Corso used to tell me. He had the fiber optics that he would hold in his hand, and they'd all light up. So it was very, very, very thin, and it was lit up in purple, pink, yellow, and blue colors. So we have no idea what that is, but they had 10 pounds of it. And I have, if you read Trinity, there's 2 sources that had it, and they trimmed the tree with it. 2 sources that didn't.
It's from these guys. It's from these guys.
Well, it's hard to say. I can't just guess. I don't know what was there, who was there, where they came from. I just know what happened. Me. I just know, of the event. But this discussion of angel hair, thank you for getting on it, because very, very important. And if you can find any of it, go have it analyzed.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, can you see if you can get some, Jocelyn? If we can,
I went up as soon as I heard the rumor. I went right up to the high school, and I looked all around. I stomped all around. I went to the trailhead that was up there. I really didn't see anything.
Okay.
But the painting is. I went into meditation, and I was trying to see who it was that was here, and that's what I painted. That's the reason why I said that was them. That's what I got.
That's so cool. That's so cool. In one of our small groups of 8 where we spend 8 weeks doing contact, we had a team led by April, and they were doing all the drawings and stuff. So I want to thank you so much, Paula, for coming on and sharing your experiences, and for all the investigative reporting, that you've done. There's a lot of woo-woo in this, and which I call now wow. And your career is a testament to what we can discover when we really focus our intentions on getting the facts and interviewing people painstakingly around the world. So next Thursday, we're going to be having Grant Cameron on. We're going to be talking about the music with ETs. So if any of you guys want to stay on for another 15 minutes, we're going to say goodbye to Paula. And if you want to stay on, we're going to play some of our musical experiences with ETs. It's a 3-minute clip of how we made songs with them. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm also here to answer any questions about Contact 250. Again, we don't do this very often throughout the year. This is our big time. So yeah, we hope that everyone can join us. So thank you so much. Paula, do you have any closing remarks that you want to share?
And doing the data collecting, which is easy. I really want to encourage everybody to be happy, be positive, and probably to do something to change what is happening here, because it isn't just that we're entertainment. We're here to inspire people to do something, even something small that will make a difference on the planet in general. So may I encourage you to do something, and I'll be with you.
Thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Yep, that's the name of the game, you guys. Putting everything into action. So right now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to show the video of, again, this is what happens when 8 artists and scientists get together for 8 weeks and do an experiment with focused intention.
All right, we're ready, everybody. Everything that I have here is operating on 432.
What do you think
Adventure, safety, mirror.
something mirror?
Safety.
Oh,
Safety mirror.
adventure safety
Yep.
mirror. That's what we should call the EP, you guys.
More
more we talk about this, the more they're communicating.
Launch.
Typically.
Useful.
Yeah.
Residential. Colleague. Extension. Distribute.
Ollie extension distribute distribute with you guys. Ollie.
Yeah, they are like rocking out over here. But if you can hear that,
Are they blue?
Are you blue? No.
Are you transparent? Our REM pod just went off a lot. Oh my God. These are the cutest questions, you guys. This is like anthropology 101.
Yes, 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 maybe, yes, yes, yes.
Oh, so they're transparent.
Can I see through your skin to your internal organ? Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Oh.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Numerous yeses.
I got a question.
Yeah, Libby?
Are you happy?
Yes, 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 yes.
We are happy too. Yeah, so let me go ahead and turn the sound off here in a second. There we go. So yeah, what did you guys think of that? Pretty cool, right? We're going to be teaching you guys. Oh, cool. Pauline's radio is going off. That's so cool. So yeah. This is really, we had Ricky Stiles on our team who is an app developer, and he created the whole crop circles one. And at one point we said, if we could create a common language between us in symbols, that would be really good. And so we're like, I wonder if they could pick out the human, within the crop circle. And sure enough, they picked out the human. They landed on the human one and held. It was really, really, really cool. So we're going to be talking about the apps and things like that for Contact 250. Like I said, if you guys don't know Altair, he's one of the most loving, peaceful, kind humans you'll ever meet. And I encourage you, if you want to get to know him better before Contact 250, you can just go to lightnet.org/webinar. And it's a whole free webinar of an hour of some practices with him that you can try out. Math is a constant in the universe. I read in the chat, which I absolutely love. So if anybody has a question, you can go down to the reactions button in the middle right and raise your hand, and I could call on you. Okay, Bill, I did not see your hand raised. That's why we let Paula go. It's a little bit late her time.
I just raised it, but I can't do Contact 250. I just wanted to let everybody, I just changed my hours. So a real pain, but I just wanted to let everyone know here. I jumped on this because I just wanted to let them know I was in the original Contact 100. So if anyone does not really know what's going to happen, it's changed my life. It really has. I've met some really great people. I really didn't know what to experience, but it was very life-changing. I've done some other classes. I've been in classes with Zinka and Altair. I just came on tonight, guys, just to let you know that be ready to experience something that you've never experienced in your life.
Oh, that's so awesome. Awesome, Bill. We're going to miss having you. One of the things, you guys, you will have the archives to this. So if you don't get to be there for one of the sessions or whatever, you can still find it. We were looking through some of the testimonials today. All the beautiful experience allowed many, including myself, the opportunity to connect with our galactic brothers and sisters. I was able to meet a new light being that I've been working with since the first weekend. Thank you so much. I feel more connected, spiritually aware. Synchronous events are abound. That's one of the things we all realize. raising our vibration. That was from Morgan. Laura, oh my God, there's too many things to say about it all. Zega's bright spirit, Altair's focus, all the wonderful participants. Above all, we're all of the love exercise and focus and basis and everything in love. Yeah, it's a very loving community and loving practices. Fantastic community event, amazing energy. Excited for the contact it generated and the coming together, positive and encouraging, empowering. So yeah, we were just looking through some of these today. So yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions before we close tonight? Okay, so like I said, next Thursday, we're gonna be with Grant Cameron. He's also done a ton of books about ET contact and research. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is getting into the flow and how that facilitates contact. So yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next week.